Alright, so welcome to a new guide on this channel, and on this occasion is the scratch pad from Studio One. Now everything on this guide is in chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. Now if you like this guide, please like and subscribe, and if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks, everything is on the description. Okay, so let's just begin. The idea of a scratch pad is very simple. The thing is that you might want to use it for different things. Maybe you want to use it to audition different variations of a clip. Maybe you want to use it to store different variations of a clip, or maybe you just want to create a different version of your whole arrangement and then make some changes and kind of make some decisions. Right. So you can use it for that. So before we can do all of that, and we need to learn the basics. So if you go right here at the top, you have the icon of the scratch pad. Now, as soon as you click it, this is going to create a scratch pad for you. This will be divided, or it's just going to split the timeline. So you have your timeline 1, and then you have your timeline 2, and they are kind of independent from each other. So if I play right here, it's going to loop right here, but nothing is going to happen on the other timeline. And if I go here, everything is empty. But still, it's going to do its job. So this is how it works. Now, if you go all the way at the top again, you have the name. So it says scratch pad number 1. So if you have number 1, it means that you can create different scratch pads. So when you click on this, it's going to tell you, dude, you are standing on the scratch pad number 1, but you can rename it. You can duplicate this one, or you can add new scratch pads or delete them. So we can have a 2, we can have a 3, we can have as many scratch pads we want with different information. So in this case, I want to delete the third one, and I'm going to be deleting the second one. I'm just going to work with the first. So if you want to rename it, go right there, rename scratch pad, and I'm going to be renaming this to something that makes sense, like variation 1 or something like that. So that's going to be my name. Right, so let's just use it. I have right here this tiny thing. Now, all of these clips, the drums, this is going to be the drums, and this is going to be the bass. All of this comes from a library that you get free within the loops of Studio One. So you have this, So what I want to do, I want to use it. I want to use this scratch pad. So I want to go right here, and I'm gonna click and I'm gonna drag. I'm not doing Alt. I'm not doing Shift. I'm not doing Control. I'm just clicking and dragging. And when you do that, instantly we'll just make a copy of whatever it is that you're dragging, and it's going to put it on this timeline. Pretty easy. Same thing with the drums. So just going to copy, I'm going to drag, and not copy, just click, drag, and it's going to copy, paste. So if I play this, it is on this timeline, but if I play it right here, it's on this timeline, on the scratch pad. Now all of this just makes sense. I'm going to adjust the loop so we can match all of this. All right, so now we have pretty much the same. So it's the same on the main arrange view, on the arranger, and it's the same thing on right here on the scratch pad. So what I can do if I want to create different ideas, or just maybe store different variations, I just can keep this one, because it's this one, as variation number 1, like the main variation. But if I wanted to, I just can maybe go right here, duplicate the scratch pad, and it's just gonna copy whatever we had on the 1 and just copy it on the 2. And maybe right here, if I want to make a change, or maybe audition a different sample with the same vase, I just can go to my loops right there and just maybe play a different loop. That's fine. And I'm gonna delete this drums, and I'm gonna be putting this one right here the top, and I'm just gonna make it shorter. So now I have 2 variations of pretty much the same thing. So what I can do, I can play this one, and I can instantly switch to the other one and audition, the different variations. Right, so you can use it for this. So this is one use. Now, one thing that we do, and I'm pretty sure you do it maybe, because I did in the past. One thing we do is sometimes we want to work with a different clip, or we make some changes, but we are not really sure. So what we do, we copy this one, we maybe duplicate it, and we put it at the end of the track, way behind. And maybe if we want to access to that, we know we have it right there. So you don't need to do this, at least on Studio One, anymore. You just can go create a scratch pad and store it on whatever variation you have available. That's that's why you have it. So you might never want to access that scratch pad, but if you wanted to do it, you can. You can store that information, that clip right there, and you have it, and it's not on your main timeline. I'm gonna delete all the scratch pads. Kind of a mini mistake. I did wanna, have the scratch pad number 1, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna select everything, and you can drag everything and just, drop it, and it's gonna make an exact copy. I still want to do the same thing of looping the whole thing, but what I want to do, I want to create different variations. And creating different scratch pads for this, it kind of sucks because we need to go to select the first one, third one. What if we have 10 different variations of the same bass with different drums? Switching from here is just a little bit crazy. So I'm going to show you a better way. All right, so I'm going to rename this one, and I made a mistake. I know I made a mistake. I'm going to rename it again, and I'm going to still call it variation number 1. All right. So, okay, so we have the same thing on this one, and we have the same thing on this one, but I don't want to do that. I want different variations of this. So let me just make it right there, and I want to delete this drums. So what I want to do, I want this one. It's going to be fine. I'm going to go copy. I'm going to put it right there. This is going to be my first variation. And I'm going to copy this and paste it 3 times. I want 3 different variations. Now, what I need to do is just bring some different drums. Maybe this one, it's fine. And let me find the third one. Something. Whatever. This one is fine. So we have 3 different variations of the same, pretty much the same thing, but with different drums. So I'm going to be changing the colors so this is a little bit more obvious. There we go. So now we have 3 different things. We have the main one, which is the thing maybe we are going to go with. But now I just want to do a little bit of experimentation and just search for different clips. So we find 3, and what we can do, we can go play this one. And right there, we can go to the second one or the third variation and just, make a decision. You can go right there and jump on the timeline and just, go to the different clips. Now, this is fine. It's a little bit better than going and just toggling through the different variations or the different scratch pads. Just a little bit better. The thing is that still we need to kind of click or put the cursor right there to kind of start there. So there's a better way. So we have the tool, we have the arranger tool. So this is really helpful. So let's say I'm going to go right there, and this is going to be my burst. Okay. So right here, that's the intro. We're going to change it in a minute. But right here, since this is a separate timeline, we can use the arranger and we can do whatever we want. I can go right there and say that this is going to be my my variation number 1. It's kind of adding the names, by default, but we're going to change that. And this is going to be the third one. So now the trick is, and this is what I want to show you, is that when you go to here to actually the arranger right there, you go there, it is going to tell the difference between the main timeline, which is this one, and I'm going to rename it to verse or something like that. Just something that makes sense. And right here, we have the scratch pads. So it's recognizing that you have a scratch pad and you have a variation number 1. If I add a new scratch pad, let me add 1, and it's going to recognize it. So now again, you have different versions of the same thing in the same session. So it's super cool. So I'm gonna maybe go to this one. I'm even gonna delete the scratch pad number 2 because we just don't need it. All right, so now I'm going to be renaming this. I'm going to be calling this var number 1 for variation. This one is going to be the 2, and this one is going to be the number 3 because it makes sense. And just again to make a change, I'm going to be I'm going to change this to the different colors we have available right there. So the var number 3 is going to be something like that. So what is the trick? Why, bothering and doing all this? So now, since you have this, you can easily double click and audition this one without looping. And you can go to this one and check the number 2, or maybe go to the number 1 by double clicking, or maybe go to the number 3. And then just decide which one is the best. Pretty easy, and you can still do it from here. Right? It's a lot easier than, again, going right there and creating different, different scratch pads. Now, at the end of the day, you're doing this to have a variation, of course, but then just make a decision. So what you can easily do with the range, you just can go right there and just maybe toss it, and this one is going to, or it should replace, let me just go and do it like this, it's going to replace the one that you have on your main timeline. Or if you don't want to ruin your arranger, you just can go right there and just drag and drop, and it's going to replace whatever you had from before. Right? So the purpose right here is to have several options, and in this case, we are exploring with different variations. That's the plan. Okay, so we have a problem right now because we are using this to create different variations and see what's going on and then just making a decision. But the thing is, what happens if I bring a new instrument? Okay, so let me just close this, and I'm gonna be going to the mix. And right here, I have a track that I have, kind of ready. And this is a clap sound. So let me just bring the sound, and I'm gonna solo it so you can hear it. Right? That's it. That's fine. That's fine. So now we have a new instrument or a new sound. We have something new. The problem is that since we are doing this to kind of listen the whole arrangement in a whole, right now if we go to the variation number 1, we don't have it because we don't have this element. So what we need to do is just drag this right here and then duplicate, and then we have the same thing. But until that, we just don't. But doing this, sometimes it sucks because right now we have 3 tracks, but maybe in the future you have a lot. So this method kind of falls a little bit short. So what you get is the listen tool. So what you can do is go right here, play whatever you have. Since right now we have only one single clip, with the listen tool, you just can play this. And we know it's the main timeline. And now with the listen tool, I'm gonna stand on the variation number 1, and we have that variation. Or maybe the variation number 2. And now we can instantly just audition different parts. And if you had a different bass, of course we just would get the different bass, but we don't. But that's the plan. You can use the audition tool, the listen tool, to toggle instantly or live through your different variations. And it's just, just another way of working with the scratch pad. Okay, so let me just show you something else. It's not very related to the scratch pad, but it is because we are using the arranger to use the scratch pad. Now, if I go to the arranger right there, let me just go there. If I go to the arranger, we see that right there at the top, we have something that says sync mode, and it's off. So this means that if I play this and I go to the other one and I play this one and this one and this one, it's not going to await or sync to the tempo of your track. So it's kind of instantly changing it. So the sync mode, what it will do, it will sync it to a bar or 2 bars or 4 bars, and then the end. But in this case, we don't care. So I'm going to go to 1 bar. So now this means that if I play this and I play the next one, it's going to wait for the bar, it's done, before we can switch it. So we have a more natural kind of a transition between the different variations. It's just an extra thing I just wanted to show you that you can do. All right, so far we've been using the scratch pad to create variations, to listen to different ideas, or even to store different clips that we might want to use later, or we might not. But you have a different way of using this, and for this one, I'm just gonna duplicate. Actually, I'm gonna create a new variation, a new scratch pad. So I'm gonna call it, something like whole or something like that, and it will make sense in a minute. I'm gonna hit whole. Okay. So what if we have on our track, we have right here on our main timeline, something a little bit more, finished. Let's say that we have an intro, we have a verse, and then we have a chorus, right? Okay, so let me just go there and just do it. I'm gonna duplicate this, this, and this. And let's just pretend that we have a good track. Let's just pretend. I'm gonna be, in this case, I'm gonna be taking the verse right here. Let me just go right there. Actually, I'm gonna do it right there. Of course, if you drag it, it's going to replace whatever you had. So right now we have 3 different parts. So this one is going to be my intro, this one is going to be my verse, and this one is going to be, let's say, the chorus, right? Just to call it something. So maybe the intro is going to be just with the bass, the verse is going to be just with the drums and the bass, and then I want the, the keys right here on the chorus. Now I will go to the arrange right here, to the arrange view, and I'm gonna just rename this to the correct names. So this one is gonna be my intro. Let me just type it correctly. And this one is gonna be my verse. And the other one is gonna be the chorus. So there we go. We have just 3 different parts. Makes sense, right? So now we have a progression, an idea. Let's pretend, of course, this is a track. All right, and then, right, okay. Now let's say that we are happy with this, that maybe we are going to be printing this or sending to our customer or clients in this case, or, maybe if you're producing for yourself, let's say that this is the final version. Now, what you can do, you can go to the arrange, drag and drop and make a copy, an exact copy of whatever you have on the scratch pad. So now when you go to this timeline, to this part, this section on the timeline, you are going to be, what you can do, you just can make changes without ruining or changing whatever you had right here. Because sometimes you like to make a lot of changes, and then if you don't like them, you're just going to need to do Control Z or Control Z, whatever you want to call it, and go back or maybe store a different version of this project. Well, maybe you just can grab everything, just put it on the scratch pad and make some changes. And if you don't like it, just delete it. Now, let's say I want to make some changes because I'm not entirely happy with this. Okay, so I'm going to make this. I'm just going to chop the bass a little bit. I'm going to be putting this right here. I'm just going to duplicate it. And I don't know, I'm just maybe going to be chopping some clips. And I'm going to do something, something easy and something like that, makes no sense, but that's fine. And maybe the verse or the chorus is just, too quick. So maybe I just want to move it right there. And I'm going to go move this right here. And again, we are just kind of improvising or just creating different ideas for the whole arrangement. So now we are not working just with clips. We're just working on our track. And maybe I don't like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just select all of this. And this is going to be like the kind of a break. Let's pretend, right? So, okay, so, you know what? I'm going to be leaving this right here. I'm going to be putting this right here. And I'm just going to be doing something like that. So now we have something similar, but it's just a different version. So if I play it, right? Maybe I like this. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Well, the whole point is just, checking different versions. I'm going to F that up right there. And maybe if we like this, you want to try some automation and, again, just check different variations. And the trick is that if I go to the letter A and enable automation, you can automate right here. You can write some automation on this section on this one, but you can do something else right here, which is fantastic. If I go to the volume right there, I can maybe go and just maybe go all the way down, just, to do something quick. I can go to something closer. So my automation is done pretty much. I did pretty much nothing. So I'm going to be playing it and just, make a call. And that's the point. I just want to listen to a different version and decide if I'm going to go with this one or keep the one I had from before. Right? Something pretty simple. Now, let's just pretend that this, the chorus, I like it a lot more than this one. So now you can maybe store a different version, or maybe you can create a new scratchpad and store this version on the new scratchpad, saying kind of a original mix or something like this. But you can drag and drop this section, and there you go. It's going to copy and paste whatever automation you had, and it's going to just, do whatever you want. So, yep, that's it. So the ability of having different timelines and using automation, it's just fantastic. Now, I'm pretty sure you have a question. I had this question when I was learning about scratchpads. Can I export this scratchpad? Because maybe I like to keep the other version for, version number 1 for the client, or maybe I just want to export this one as a, experimental version. So yeah, you can. If you go right there and you go to song and export mixdown, it's going to export whatever you selected if you're choosing to export, of course, within the loop range. Now, if you select this timeline, it's going to export this, which is, again, another cool thing. So there you go. That's the scratch pad. It's a great thing to have to store things, to create variations, to create different versions of your track, or just make tiny little things. And if you're gonna go with them, you just can just toss it right there on your main timeline and do the replacement. Pretty simple. Right, so if this was useful for you, remember to like and subscribe. It's just free. And if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee, you can go to the links description, and you have a link for PayPal. You have the Google Thanks now. Yeah, you have that. Or you can be a 1 month patron. Right, you can do that. All right, so see you on the next one.